Recording live from the home office.
Nice, man. Let's roll. Let's do this. Episode 64. All right, guys. Anthony Angelillo, branch manager over here at Paramount Residential Mortgage Group, CEO, founder of Tag Team Nation, co-host of Damage Control, top originator of the year. And looking forward to this episode. This is definitely down my alley. Systems and how we actually built DC is off systems as well. And we're going to talk about all of that stuff. With that, I'll let Melinda present herself.
Hi, everyone. Melinda Grimaldi, real estate and title attorney with the Grimaldi Law Firm and the Closer Title Insurance Company. And excited to talk about systems today because really systems saved our ass these last few months. We've had some challenges here and there on both ends. So, having systems definitely kept our businesses streamlined on point, right? And producing while we were still trying to figure out some things and not being able to be so on top of every step of the way. But that's the purpose of systems. They got tested, right?
Why? Because yeah, I mean, I had COVID, and when I was out, it was, I thought
you were really out. Yeah, you were really out. You were out.
I thought I was screwed, man. I honestly thought that without the systems, I got to say, to get really personal, I honestly thought, damn, this is not going to be a good month. And financially, we're going to, feel it. Granted, we have a P&L and, we're not in the red zone here. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's scary. What do you do if, God forbid, your health goes to hell, God forbid, and then how do you provide for your family? And it was difficult, but I am blessed. And I am blessed to have this show and everything else, and you and everyone that we are surrounded with. I've got to say that the people that you surround yourself with, it really goes a long way, only because our systems were implemented. We had the technology, we had the emails going out, and a lot of people didn't even know that I was sick. But the point is that I had peace of mind, right? Knowing that the systems were in play and that, it continuously started growing and growing. But it was scary, very scary for me, at least.
Yeah, because you had to be checked out, right? Because you had to focus on getting yourself better. So it's definitely, a turning point there. We know now the benefits of the systems for your business, but what made you decide, like, I need to start building this stuff out? Like, what was that? What was a turning point? What was the thing for you that was a trigger? And did you do it unintentionally and it just kind of, then you realized it and then I don't know, we never really spoke about this, so I'm curious.
That's a good question. You put me on the spot. All right, so that's a really good question. So for me, I'm going to answer that two ways. So for me, I had it all written down on a Word doc. Okay. This is what I envisioned my systems to look like, what I wanted. There was not technology that, obviously was out there that, what my crazy mind was thinking, but I kept on running against, the wind. And it was very difficult for me because I always had roadblocks, and third, fourth, fifth time, you would think you would learn. For me, I said, the hell with this. I need to implement systems. So I created a Word doc, and I shit you not, it's probably 46 pages. I think it was like 47, 48 pages. And I sent it to a tech team and we created it. And here we are 5 years later, but it's not exactly what I put on paper.
But what made you write that Google Doc or whatever you did?
Because I was sick and tired of having the same crap happen over and over again. And it was, okay, something happened in the prospect stage. We didn't call this person fast enough. We didn't follow up on this person. It was, the CD didn't get reviewed. So now the client was complaining because the numbers are off because they're not balanced. It was just the little idiosyncrasies in the milestones for at least my business. And it just drove me up a wall. And so what really stuck with me is when I went to the first 10X Growth Con. I got a phone call from an agent. He goes, "You're remarkable. You saved the deal. Thank you so much." He's like, man, you really need to, put this into systems, because this would help a lot of agents out. And I was like, let's elaborate for me. His name's Mike Gonzalez. If he's watching this, he's over in the West Coast, big religious guy. He's like, you just got to pray to the Lord, and it will definitely happen. So the bottom line is that what we were having an issue with is that people were not explained properly the protocol, the process, what to anticipate. Then if a new agent came in, they didn't understand what to anticipate, so they couldn't relay a message to the borrower. So you've got two Chicken Littles here. And that's when I was like, you know what, this is going to make me look bad. I've got experience. I can't explain it to everyone. I can't be everywhere. I need to create something to formulate me, to duplicate me. And that's when it all started. Literally, that's when it all started.
I love it. I love it. Part of your wanting to make the process better is what's the pain of that thing. And I can relate to that. For me, if I were to answer my own question, which I will, I started doing it unintentionally, because for a long time it was just me. So how could I be more efficient? Right. Or I had one part-time or one full-time person. Like, how can I be more efficient? So, and how can I, but it wasn't even like very intentional. It's like, okay, I send this email all the time. Let me just save it in Evernote. So I started to save templates, checklists, how-tos in Evernote, right? Yeah. How am I going to teach someone to do something if I just hired them? So like, that's how I started to do it. It was a bunch of piecemeal things. And then it got more organized because my Evernote had like chapters, right? So it was like everything about admin, everything about like closings, everything about, and back then I did other areas of law. So I would just have like folders, and then within those folders was everything about everything like that I built. Folders? Yeah. So you're able to create like books and notebooks and notebook, right? So it's a picture of it as a folder. So that's how I had started gathering together all those things. And then, it's basically like, as you're trying to grow, it's always that one person that I hired. It didn't work out. And I never really got to two. Until I started coaching. When I started business coaching, probably 6 years ago or so, is when I started in this program, and they're extremely big on systems. So I got inspired by, and I also got told, like, you need to set up systems, otherwise your business will fail. You'll be a slave to your business. You'll never be able to release the reins. You can't do everything. And to make sure that you do things properly in your business that you're not doing yourself, you need the systems to be able to have quality control, but even like, all those things. So I realized that the more systems I created, the more peace it gave me. And I'll tell you why. Because of my perfectionism, because of my need to always like be in the know of things and understand things and like have my hands in stuff, which is a bad thing as a leader, which I created systems to allow me to step back and feel comfortable about it.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't want to look bad, and you want it to be your way. Period.
Right. So I have my way. We have our way we want to provide service to the agents, to the clients. Right. So it took between me having that perfectionism and needing a way to, and the coaching that I took, and kind of my joy of efficiency, right? Because there's nothing better than like doing things a quick, fast way, by copy and pasting something that, like, why do we have to recreate the wheel? And on top of that, going all the way back to law school, in law school, most of the time they would say, most of the time you're never creating something from scratch. Now, they made us create things from scratch to learn how to do it. But the reality is pleadings or documents or even closing documents, we're not, you have a template, you use what somebody else did and you make it for your client, right? You use it from the past file. So now, of course, we got closing softwares, and it's much more high tech now in legal or real estate than it was, 13, 14 years, 15 years ago when I was in law school. The tech was still catching up back then for templates and systems and management softwares, right? But now everything is there already. So you just got to pay a little bit of money to have access to these things that
Yeah.
create systems for you in any industry. There is something for everything, right? You just got to find the good ones
Mhm.
that give you the good tools. So, and finding those tools and really learning to build it out, because any CRM practice management softwares that you have, they need to be implemented, personalized, and built out to really use it to the fullest extent. So,
So you took what? Extracted everything from Evernote and then
so
implemented it in your system?
I
Go ahead, go
continued, I continued to build it in Evernote until Evernote was like, couldn't manage. And then I was doing it in like a manual format in like a Dropbox Word document setup of folders
Yeah.
and subfolders and documents coded a certain way. But even that I didn't like, because it's referencing things that I couldn't link. So now I use another online program called Nuclino. It's that the logo is a brain. And it's funny because that's Anthony calls me the brain. So it's funny that that's the brain.
That's funny.
But it's the idea is it's a shared brain. So everyone is sharing to build this tool. It's really a team effort now in how we're building it. But the brain allows me to link from one note to another. So for example, everyone has their daily responsibility list, and within that list, it links you to the how-to for everything on that responsibility list. That's as simple as, everyone knowing what they're responsible for, to how to record something in some, for the county records. I have one for that. How to retract recorded documents for county. I have a how-to for everything, because at some point there will be somebody that doesn't know how to do it, especially because I have a really good track record of hiring people with no experience and building them up. So I need those tools, right? It's allowed me to be very successful at that. So with time and building, and the program helped me a lot, is where I'm at today. But every time, and so now we're in Nuclino, and now Nuclino is almost, I've outgrown Nuclino. We're in the process of reorganizing it right now. Nuclino, Nuclino. It's a free tool. There's paid versions, but I really need to now either up level within the system or find something else, but we're reorganizing it now.
And why is it what is it? It's not holding the capacity because you're scaling, or what?
It's just requires a lot of manual effort to keep it organized. And I think that there's probably, I know nowadays there are softwares that are built for manuals and how-tos and training guides, right? So, but that's just part of the systems. How-tos, manuals, and training guides and templates is just part of the systems. Per my coaching program that I was in, is checklists plus how-tos plus there was a templates plus it's like all these things are what a system is, right? So, and then within it is like who needs to do what by when. So I always like to, when I'm drafting this or even sending an email, down to sending an email, like who needs to do what by when, and what, and
and you've got all templates in that system set up.
So we have templates in there. Some of those, the most used templates, that are like email drafts and things like that, are saved as in our email software as a template. So they just, based on the label, gets auto-populated with things that we send for every single deal. So that's kind of how we got started. But the beauty of it, as it's grown, now it's like, it's a stuff from machines, so I'm able to bring people in and reconfigure, even down to how do I train someone. I have a training, the first 5 days of training already built out for any new team member, matched with the links of where to find things.
The links, right? The tutorial, the video links. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we've done a lot of videos that we've created. Now the most recent, the last, I would say 18 months is doing video recording trainings. So it's really showing things, at a granular level, like sharing the screen type thing. So we record the screen as I'm talking or training, or now even my other team members are helping me build it. So that's how we've gotten to where we are now. But I will say the most important part of my system right now is my closing software, which allowed me to build out workflows that had dependent tasks. So if one thing gets checked, the next thing gets populated based on when something is done. So everything is like request, confirm receipt, send it, depending on what it is, to whoever needs it, and then reviewing. And
And
they're all,
is it coded? Is it hard stop? Meaning like X person can't move to the next task unless that task
no.
is completed?
So because there's for us at least, and I think for a lot of different businesses, there are in industries too, is that there's a lot of moving parts that have to all happen at the same time.
Yeah.
So we have like segments of the process. So like opening, then we have title, then we have the loan section, then we have the pre-closing, and then we have closing, and then we have post-closing. So that's kind of how our stage goes in my workflow. But you could have a task in one or the other. And because we're relying on other people to give us stuff, sometimes we might not be ready to go to the next step until we get it, but other things still need to get done. So it's like not all codependent, but what it does is, because this is the part that gets hard as you scale and as you grow. Like when I had a handful of files at a given time, when I first started doing work, like title work, I can keep the tasks in my head. I had to post it on the paper file, right? But now we're managing 50, 60 transactions that are active, like, with open contracts at a given time. So at that point, you can't keep all that in your heads, right? You can't manage, I have to order a stopple here. And that's the same thing for agents, just on a different scale. If you have several transactions at different stages of the game, you can't possibly keep it all in your head. So, and like, when you have one file that you're working on, exclusively, right? Think about, I can get the best service on this file because everything's in your head, because it's the only thing in your head, right? Yeah. Even if you have no personal things going on, no other businesses, no kids, no husband, no nothing, you only have that file in your head. How do I get this file closed, right? That's easy, right? But we know life's not like that with one file. Imagine with 2 files, 3 files, 10 files, right? As you grow. So, I don't like to keep things in my head. That's when I get overwhelmed. So that's why I'm very big on like dumping on paper. Like when I have, like, especially Sundays, I just dump everything on paper.
Like a brain dump?
Yeah, of all the things I know I got to do. And then if it's not already in a workflow or somewhere else, I plug it throughout my week. But that's a different system, right? For me, is like, okay, what are all the things? And then you just feel so much relief once you get it out of your head. So I literally on Sundays, I keep a list going. This is like, I'm sidetracking myself, but I think it's important. I have a piece of paper that I keep with me. And I literally am like just writing down all the things, like down to scheduling a doctor's appointment. I know I can't do it right on a Sunday. The office is closed. So I got to just not forget again, right? So it's all these types of things, just dumping them for yourself so that you can set it up as to when you're going to do it. And then I break it up between the week as to, what has to be done and what's the most urgent. And then, run my week that way. It's very helpful. But imagine if I had to put the file stuff in there too. It's crazy. No like way. I literally made I probably added 15 things to the list. I probably still have my Sunday list here. If I go get it, I'll grab it in a second. You guys will laugh because it's like, it's crazy. It's really crazy.
Let me ask you this question, because you're making me think right now. And this is actually not even part of our agenda, but are you constantly changing your system? Do you find yourself tweaking things? Because I literally just had a meeting with our VAs and we're making it easier on our eyes visually because it's becoming so big. Yeah. And it's just like this massive elephant. We're like, this is not good for sales, for operations. It's great, but it's just too much. How do we break it down so it's easier to digest? Hour went by. Now we have an idea. We're implementing it. Bam. They're knocking it out. Do you find yourself constantly tweaking?
Always. Every day. Yeah. We actually have, and sometimes we can't do them all at the same time. So I'm gonna let me scroll back because so I built the Nuclenos, for example. I built the Evernote system, right, as I went along. Yeah. But my business scaled, my team scaled. It was no longer. I had to upgrade my system. On to the next. That still wasn't Dropbox, and Word docs wasn't working. We were having conflicted copies, this and that. Moved on to the next, right? And so now I'm at a different point where my team, we're gonna be, if all goes smoothly, 10 by the end of the year. That's crazy for me to even like wrap my head around, because I was at,
when you were having a tough time.
Just 2 years ago, I was at 2, right? And now I'm at 10. So like trying so hard to find, it's like you find someone good and the other person leaves. And it's like a constant, like,
hamster
right?
wheel, man.
But, and, you know, and as agents, you can't, like, you have to think about like team as the same thing. You have your TCs, you have the assistants you get from your brokers, you have your vendors that help you through the file. Those are the same things. Like, they're all part of your system. They're all part of the routine of a file. So, you know, even if you don't have an assistant or a showing assistant or, you know, an actual real estate team in the traditional sense, you still have a team, the people who move you through. And as you grow and as you add and as you get busier, even if it's just you, your systems will need to be upgraded. So sometimes planning ahead and trying to foresee where you want to be and building the system already with that in mind, so you have room for scaling. That's what I didn't even do it like intentionally like that. But my husband, when he was helping me build out some things about 5 years ago, he's like, this is a disaster. The software I was using, which is a very common software in the industry in Florida, was like a dinosaur. And he's like, this cannot, he already started researching and he found me the software that it is now, which back then was newer. Now it's like changing the game, right?
Yeah. He knew about Slack. He told
me to do
too.
Slack. I'm like, what am I gonna do with Slack? Like, I don't need Slack. And then now like Slack is a big part of my system, you know, but trying to tie all these pieces together is that I actually built a business for volume when I had no volume. Yeah. Right. But now that I'm starting to grow my volume and I'm scaling, I already had the system in place. So thanks to him for like making me see that. But this is my list from the weekend. Like, look at that. This is how much stuff I wrote in like 30 minutes. When I'm like, there's probably like, it got wet, like it's scratched off, but I don't know why I kept it. Cause there's 3 more things on here that are not done yet. And I have to put it in my list. But the funny thing of this is like, this was all in my head.
And it's just, sometimes it's good to just get it out.
So, and then I put it in my planner and my systems, and I assign things to some people. Sometimes it's not even me. It's just remembering to tell someone to do something. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's super important. So
let's go back. So how do they get started? We talked about that, but what you mentioned that I want to elaborate on is you forecasted. I did the same. And it just fell in my lap. I had my business plan from business school. The bottom line though, is I didn't know I was going to start, another company, and I didn't understand, that we were going to have DC. I didn't anticipate any of this. You can't forecast that, but I wanted a system that can handle all of that. Right. So that's why I ended up with HubSpot. I didn't want the system that, X bank was using, because what if I wanted to go sell water, you know what I mean? Or if I wanted to pivot and go somewhere else. So for me, it was different, but you mentioned forecast in terms of scalability for your business. That's very important.
And so why I bring that up now is, even if you're just starting in the game for a year or two, you really need to think about building out your CRM now, because that's the first system that you need to build out, is a CRM, whichever one it is. And I know you probably are like, here they go again, talking about a CRM, but there's no real way to manage all the relationships you have and all the possible leads and all the current clients and all the past clients, because there should be systems that you're thinking about or building for each level of that. The first system well, it depends. It depends on how busy you are, of where you should start as an agent. But I think the first system should really be whatever you're in right now. Whatever you're doing the most of right now is where you should start to systematize. For example, if you have a couple deals under contract, or you have showing a couple properties, that's what you should start building your system on. If you don't have too many deals and you're working on sales and you're slamming the phones and you're trying to follow up or build your sphere or check in, you should be working on the CRM first, right? Or not even the CRM first, is the sales portion of the CRM, because it's really a relationship manager, and the relationship stays from the first phone call all the way till after closing. So there's just different parts of that, like how we spoke. Like for us, we have pre-contract or pre-engagement all the way down to post-closing, right? So there's different sections of that depending on what it is. And I definitely got to work on my pre-engagement more, my sales side more. That's one of my projects, my HubSpot, and I'm going to be changing that. But you have to, as an agent, build it as you go if you're already busy. So as you are doing showings, what is it that you always are doing the same of? What are the steps? Once you decide I'm going to start showing properties, do you put them in your system to get like targeted emails with certain listings? Do you have a recap email? Do you have anything that you do all the time, or that you would like to do all the time and do sometimes, but forget to do it sometimes because you don't have a system for it, right?
No.
So how do you show up in your best self as an agent servicing this client? What are the things you want to do? And this is going to change, and this is going to be added to, and it's going to be tweaked, but you just got to start somewhere, right? So just start making a checklist. I think that's the best way to start. When you talk about operations, you start writing it down in a checklist, asking some other colleagues what they do, and then finding a system where you can put it in so that it automates. Because the beauty of these CRMs or my software, Anthony software, is that it populates your tasks for all the different clients or files or things that you're doing. And so when I log in today, I see for this file number, I got to do this, for this, I got to do this, for this, I got to do this. And everybody in my team has their list.
Yeah,
right?
I just saw there was an appraisal going out and it went into your Slack channel and I didn't even comprehend. I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So it's good. Once you set that up, it takes time. Then you can, go back and just review for a quick 30 minutes and understand what you need to tackle for the day.
Because then what happened to me when I used to do by paper or have a paper checklist is like, I would have to go through again. Okay. Is there anything here that I already did? Is there anything that I haven't forgotten? And then look at the next files checklist and look at the next, because I used to have paper files, literally, like if this was I used to have paper files, right? Let's say this was a paper file.
Yeah.
And I used to have a checklist that was stapled to the top of it. That's old school, right? And there's companies that still do it and good for them. But like for us, because we're trying to service people at a higher level and we work as a team, like, yes, we have different roles, but everybody knows what's happening in the file. And that was important to me. And we can't do that with one paper checklist, because if that checklist is on somebody else's desk, then how do they know?
Or if someone gets sick and has to pick up a file, then they're looking at the checklist, but it's not the same. It's just.
And then my OCD-ness would like look and relook and reread, versus if it's checked off, I know what else I have to do. And I don't know if you guys ever felt like, I feel like I'm forgetting something. I know I have to do something. Like that just triggers me in my OCD-ness. That's why I brain dump. That's why I have the systems, because I don't want to feel like that. Right. So
here's a prime example. We literally just went over this yesterday about product and pricing. Product and pricing for our template, we have 3 different prices, and we purposely give 3, and it's a template. So that way everyone does the same methodology of what they're delivering. And that the concept is that, consumer is going to pick 1 out of the 3. So that's a point. That's a case point example, is that think of something that you do very well. What sets you apart? All right. And then put that in a sequence or a template. And then as you grow, this is what we're going to do. This is what made me a top producer. This is what I did. How about you? Do you have anything you would implement X, Y, Z? Get their opinion, obviously, because we've tweaked, a lot of things with operations and sales, but that loan options template, we use that every single time we pitch a client, and that way it's the same. You know what I mean?
It's the same, the consistency in your service,
that's
right?
It, consistency.
You want to make sure you're consistently serving the clients throughout and not forgetting, dropping the ball. And speaking of tweaking, things change in the industry. Things change as we grow. Things change in our teams. Things change in so many different things, right? Reasons why you would tweak, or you just find out about a better way to do it.
Yeah.
Or you think about a better way to do it, right? So these tweaks, like you have to get comfortable with tweaking, right? In your personal performance. It's also about your performance. So
You're so right, though. You
have to get okay with tweaking yourself, because that's really what you're doing. You're tweaking yourself. So every like you could tweak for efficiency, you could tweak for better service, you could tweak for the change. There's different reasons why you would tweak your systems. I just had this conversation with a colleague that does exactly what I do in a different county. And we were joking yesterday, I got a tweak. So now it's like a tweak, and we tweak for different things, right? And we're keeping a list of all the funny things that why we're tweaking, of why certain employees leave, or why we should have added that to our hiring onboarding checklist of like, pictures are required and this and that. Because that's the reality, of life, is that you have to be ready to learn from your mistakes or learn from past situations, because even if there was no mistake, sometimes it could have been better.
Yeah.
Could have been smoother. And it's not a thing of like criticize. You don't take it as a critical, think of it as like a giving yourself feedback, or taking the feedback that you might hear, and how could we have prevented this?
It's not only, it's changing. People don't want to change. They're set in their old habits. And that old habit, if that's only bringing you 1 deal a month or 2 deals a month or 5 deals a month, how do you break that to get to 10 to 20?
And for me, I've gotten to a point that like I needed to tweak something and I wasn't sure what it was.
And what was it?
In my sale and marketing? Well, I joined coaching. I just signed the contract yesterday and I'm back in coaching, because I feel like I needed a different perspective and someone to be all up in my business and like telling me some ideas, right? And just with the idea of that, the concept of doing it has given me so many ideas. Like I know what my next hire is going to be. I know all these things just because I'm like, okay, what are they going to tell me I need to do? You start thinking like that. I know that I built out. So I always talk about building out the different parts of your business, right? Sales, marketing, and I feel like I've built out most of those really well, but I feel like there's a disconnect sometimes with the two. So I need to create like a more of a cohesive plan connecting my departments. If that makes sense.
What do you mean by that? Elaborate on that.
So
to communicate back and forth?
So no, not to communicate, to like, I know where my systems need to go next. I know what numbers I want to hit next. I know what employee I want to hit next. I know, but like what comes first, and, do I need to, increase revenue before I hire, or will the hire bring me, like, you have to connect the pieces in your systems and your plans. And sometimes you got to do things before you're ready, but we'll see. But, tweaking,
almost like
back to
reporting is what you're looking to do.
Yeah. So I have
forecasting and reporting, so you can say, hey, I've got a big month right now. I know I'm going to need to hire in 3 months. If
exactly
this is the consistency I'm going. That's
exactly.
That's
and then also, like, let's say 5 years ago, one thing that as a new agent that you need to build into your system is starting to do reporting and building data for yourself.
Yeah.
So when I first started coaching, for example, I use it as a framework because that's really when I became a business owner. It was like 6 years ago, even though I've had my practice for 12. I was bullshitting around probably for the first 6 years.
Same with me.
Trying to figure it out and doing it like here and there, right?
10 years.
I mean, I was full-time and everything, and I did good work for clients, but I created a job for myself, not a business. So 5-6 years ago, when I started this program, is when everything started to shift. And I had no data. I didn't know my numbers, right, at that stage. And so I've learned to build things in, but now I know my numbers, right? I don't know them. I can't say all of them off the top of my head, but I can pull up a sheet and I can gather a lot of data, but this is from like 4 years of building it. So now I actually have data to make decisions on, but I'm not sure even what to do anymore. So that's also like, I feel stuck, right? So, but for you guys, if you don't have that data, if you can't say where are my deals coming from, what's my average deal look like, where, how many calls, like the expenditures on marketing and what that's bringing back for you. Is it bringing you 3 times your investment, 4 times your investment in marketing? If you can't answer those questions, it's because you or don't know where to look for the answers really be given to you right away. That's because you haven't built out the reporting part of your business, the system of how to report.
Amen.
CRMs have a lot to do with that. You could do a lot in your CRMs. You could do a lot just with Google and Excel or Google Sheets or whatever. So I bring this up to you because as you grow and as you scale, you know, if you're going to get in with a coach or not, you need to be making educated decisions about what's my next money making move.
What would you be willing to pay for it in order to scale?
But like, if you don't know where you are, where you've been and how you got there and what's coming up next, right? Because it's also reporting also helps you with forecasts and what you have coming up next, then what do you know what your next thing is? So building out reporting systems, backtracking some data in from previous years, if you have access to that, which you should be able to, at least some of it, and is how you start to build that. So now I have all this tons of data and I'm trying by myself to make decisions, but sometimes I doubt myself. So that's why I also got back into coaching. Right. But it's a super important part of our,
so if they're using, I don't know, Follow Up Boss or Command, if they're KW agents or whatever they're using, you know, KV Core, a lot of EXP agents, I believe, are using. How do they implement the systems then? You know what I mean? Because I guarantee you everyone's thinking that same question.
So there's a few things. The system itself should have trainings about how to build these things out. So how the technical side is already there for you. You just got to go look for it. I guarantee you they have it. Now, you could do it yourself. You could have a team member help you. You could hire someone to do it. The reality is, if it's your business, you also need to personalize what they have. So sometimes they even have some things built out for you, but is it in your voice? Is it the way you want? Is it at the cadence you want? Like how long do you want to have it go out for, right? Or when do you want it to go out for, right? So you have to personalize it to your client type, to your atmosphere, your personality, your environment, because not all files are created equal, right? So you might have something for sellers and buyers, but you might have cash buyer workflow, loan buyer workflow. We have that for closings. You should have that as an agent, right? Because there's different steps, right? So there's different steps. If you're going to go cash, well, then you don't have to do like 15 steps probably, right? There's no appraisal, there's no loan application, there's no credit checks, there's no introduction to a lender. I mean, you can go on, right? As to what there is. You might not even need an elevation certificate because they might not want insurance. You got to ask them, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to get a survey if it's a cash deal. They should get one. So that's the conversations that we have on our end. So the idea is to start to personalize these things, but pick one. What's the one that you do the most? What's the one that you're doing right now? And build it as you go along in the process. So it could start. I like to build like outside of the system first, because we're able to edit the language, the text much easier in a Word document, and then put it in the system. So you could have steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the order. And then within that step, you could have a template or a how-to, depending on what it is. And then that's how you start to build things out. Because your system will have the task that'll get assigned to you, and eventually an assistant or whatever as you grow. But then if you're going to have it as like the idea, we always want to grow our team, right? You will be capped as a solo agent with nobody else helping you after a certain point, because there's only so many hours in the day. So you will want to start removing things off your plate and delegating it out to someone on your team, whether it's part-time, full-time, VA, or TC. So what does that look like? How are they going to know how you like it? How are they going to know when you want it? And that's what you start to build it. That's how you start to build it out and say, okay, so if you're looking to grow and have someone start helping you, the first thing you got to do is you got to build a system for that add-on person before they get hired, because otherwise you're going to be wasting your money. So if you're looking to get an assistant or what do you want them to do for you? Brain dump on a piece of paper.
Here's what you just mentioned. Let me just interject. people are hiring. The problem is they're hiring and they don't realize that within 6 months to a year, they're out the door, because the person they're hiring doesn't have a learning management system in place or to navigate through or even explore. They're trying to figure it out on their own. And the retention is just constant until you realize, shit, I need something set up before I hire. That's a good business.
That's that. Or shit happens in life and they leave, whether you tell them to, or they leave on their own for other reasons.
Yeah.
Or you grow and you need to hire somebody else, or this person's now trained to do more things and I don't want them doing those things anymore.
Yeah.
So you're constantly having to fill a seat as you grow. That's one of the biggest challenges. And to streamline the process of that is to create the system, is to create the checklist, is to create the training, is to create the template. I guarantee that's one of the easiest things to start. If you have nothing else, is for the next 30 days, every email you send, will I send this email again?
Analyze it.
If you will send it again, even if it's not gonna be exactly like that, more or less like that, if you will, copy and paste it into a Word doc and just start collecting those things. And then you tweak it to be a template by taking out the names, the dates, whatever, and you make it a template email or template letter or whatever. And then you start to apply it in your system, whether it's your CRM or it's even in your email management by creating, there's ways in multiple different email management systems where you could create templates that you could just apply to your inbox, into your thing. Okay. So just because the reality is nowadays emails are the majority of the way to communicate, the majority of the way to send information. We're not faxing, we're not mailing letters, we're not even calling sometimes, right? Email is the way to formally communicate in business and in real estate, right? You're submitting an offer, all that. When you submit an offer, what do you say? Are you creating that from scratch each time? Yeah, you have to tweak some stuff, but you don't want to be rethinking about how to draft that email each time.
Yeah.
Right. As a listing agent, you're receiving a ton of offers. If you're hopefully acknowledging receipt of them, do you have that response already built in, right? Of what you're going to say when you receive one. When you submit the offers to your clients to review, what do you say? How do you yourself help your client analyze those offers? Do you put them in a spreadsheet? Say, these are the ones I picked out for you, and here's why. The other ones didn't have this, or this. And since we have somebody to choose from, these are stronger. And then now you could see these are the prices, they're all the same or they're different. Here, this is a loan type, the loan, right? It's contingencies, comparing the contingencies. How are you doing that for your sellers? Are you just sending them offers or giving them a call and spending 3 hours reviewing them on the phone? No, you spend 20 minutes analyzing them, comparing them, put it in a sheet, send it by email, call the client, review this. I just sent you this, and let's schedule a time to discuss your questions. How much more efficient is that?
Big time.
So I don't do the job of the agent, right? But I'm just thinking if I were an agent, I'm like, this is me just going off the cuff of thinking how to systematize things. Like, how can we throw that in? And then tweaking. Sometimes we think of tweaks, but we don't have the time to implement. So you need to find a place and a way to track all those ideas that might come from a colleague or somebody else, or like things that you've experienced. You're like, you know what? I think I could do this better. So you have to find a way. And for me, I have two ways. I have something in Slack called admin projects. And I just throw them. I watched a webinar. It's by my underwriter today. And I got like reminders of things I wanted to do and new things I wanted to do. So I put them all in that channel to document them. And then I have my ideas book, which is, where I kind of keep track when I just want to like scribble stuff. Yes, I bought you that just because when we're on the show, we get ideas from our guests, we get ideas from our colleagues, we get ideas. There's so many things like book recommendations, different things. Like I got to put it somewhere. because I can't keep it all in my head, and that drives me crazy, right? And then if you hear me say, okay, send me an email to remind me because I'm on the road or something, but like send me an email, send me a text, because I'm gonna forget. Send me a calendar invite, because I just realized I can't keep that on my head. I have way too much, going on, and as do most people, right? Because between business, personal life, professional life, yada yada yada, associations, different things we're doing, it's just way too much to keep in your head. So that's been a good thing for me to do.
Couple questions here. What serums do you recommend?
We have a whole episode on CRM. So if you haven't watched that one, you could take a look at YouTube. We have all the replays there, and you're able to, we broke down a few of them, but really you've probably heard this before. If not, pay attention. The best CRM is the one you're actually going to use and build out. So just pick one at the end of the day. Like, don't overthink it. Don't get stuck in the decision, and just do it.
Yeah, everyone's just that you got to make the move. You got to do something. At the end of the day, what I would say to everybody, there's so many CRMs. Pick the one that you think you're going to grow with, and really visualize where you want to be. All right. It's very important, guys. I'm going to drop something right in there. Elreen will drop it, one of our VAs. And if you guys are interested, you can jump on a call. It's a free consultation. But what I created that Melinda knows that I'm notorious with is having a more systematized way of delivering the message and in a clear vision for the consumer, and then also having your organization in the back end. So we're using a Google Live spreadsheet. So it's an intake form, buyer's consultation form with a disc test embedded into it. So you know how to physically, render services properly with emails going out. And then it's also going to show you the property fields of exactly what that consumer imports. A lot of the agents right now, 23 agents have purchased it. And we're about to expose that, and kudos to the agents that purchased it. They're using it for their Calendly invites, their LinkedIn. It's a URL link, and it's helping them have a way of service saying, client, we're going to render services. Please fill out this hyperlink. And what it is, guys, it's your buyer's consultation form that extracts the area of pain for the consumer. That's going to render a decision, and then it's going to organize your database in the back end. So that way you ladies and gentlemen have something to, really focus on in the next Q1, 2, 3, and 4. What Melinda just mentioned, how do you know what to approach when you don't have data? You need to start somewhere. So the data you can analyze is, this person was renting, this person has bad credit, this person is lacking cash to close. So it should organize a lot of people's lives, but it was.
So can I translate for you?
Yeah, translate it for me. It's different than the roadmap. So hopefully you get it.
You're talking about the intake forms, right? And the way to organize all the leads.
The buyer's consultation intake form. So it's a buyer's intake form. Yeah.
So you could take an intake when you sit down with any client, when you open up a file, when you open up a CRM, there's certain data you need to collect to be able to service this client. Anthony and his team have created it digitally to start. So it's a digital intake form that you can do with your client, or you could send it to them depending on how you operate, to be able to be filled out. And what this does, in addition to collecting some of the basic general information that you'll need to service a buyer in this industry, it will also collect certain data that will allow you to have an idea of where they stand financially, so that if they're ready to look at houses already, or if they have to be set on a path to homeownership, which is going to be a different strategy than just they got the money and they got decent credit to be able to buy now.
And it's going to, I should pay you
to
do this.
So you have that.
Keep going.
There should be a Grimaldi code for this, to put Grimaldi in there. And then I gotta, so by doing that, it allows you to, it helps you prioritize which deals need to be dealt with first with regards to showings, et cetera, and which things need to be put off, into a track, right? Of home ownership, or the journey, right? They got to be put on a journey because they're not ready yet. And this is down to talking about if they're, in the process of getting divorced, and there's questions about their finances and things that are triggers that can be a deal killer if not asked right up front, or, they could be asked, but then if not properly received in the intake, because you can ask all the questions, but if you're not analyzing the data right, then it doesn't matter, right? We just finished talking about you could have all the data, but if the data is not being used properly, if you don't especially if you're newer and you don't know how to understand the implications of why a buyer going through a divorce right now might be a problem.
There's a tutorial video that explains that. Right.
So there's guidance, whatever. And then you're able to know where it is. So I can't tell you, we had an example of an agent that we both work with that before using this intake form took a buyer out, spent a lot of time, and then once they put them through the system, they realized, oh, he's not even ready to buy. Right. And you just wasted 6 days between showings, appointments, and this and that, right? Preparing for in the post, right? So all that exercise when you could have been prospecting or servicing other clients. So it really helps you prioritize where things are at and where the leads are at in the stages. So using this in addition to a CRM is going to be crucial in getting things organized. And then also the more, right, if I'm not mistaken, Anthony, the more of these that you do, then you have a summary page where you could see all of them.
It's scored. So the score is cream in the, the cream off the crop of the coffee. So basically the score is going to give you, the focal point of exactly what hot leads you want to focus on. And then I'm not saying, if it's a 50 out of 100, I'm not saying just dump the 50%ers. Okay, what's the reasoning? What's the logical reasoning? Well, the data is there. They're lacking the cash to close. It's going to pull it into all cash to close. How many leads have you sent, your lender that are just sitting there? That's what drove me nuts. I would get leads from most of the people on this, on this show right now. And where are they? I mean, there's no communication back and forth. You can't go back to XYZ real estate agent to go over it. If it was 6 months ago, shit, I can't remember yesterday. So that's the concept, is to keep everything organized and simplified. And then you can extract that information and import it into your CRM, because everyone has a different CRM. And that was the concept, is to say, all right, here are the property fields. Now you've got the tools to go build your CRM and your automation. It's interesting, man. It's working. It's
and
good.
So this is a tweak that was created because of
a big tweak. Wrote that down, actually.
This was a huge tweak, right, for you and yours, and you created it. And now it's something that you're offering to agents to use, but really you created this to help convert deals better and quicker, and to have a better communication with your agents, right? In the prospecting stage of the deal, of the lead. So you guys, of course, we have tools and resources and teams to help build these things out for us, but use our systems to your advantage. And if it's not our systems, there's a lot of great resources out there that you can find to help, build onto your systems. And
Amen.
Even if right now you're using multiple different tools, they might not all integrate just yet. You could evolve and tweak that later, but just get things going, get organized. Having systems allows you to be proactive in your approach in your business versus reactive. And in real estate, a little proactivity in all our departments, right? In lending, in title, and as the agent, if we're proactive in how we run our business, the deals are going to close faster, better, smoother, right? And that's what we all want. So less cancellations, less delays, right? So less deals that get started that should never have started to begin with. I think that's the worst part. Like, this deal was never a deal. Why am I working so hard on it?
Worst.
Yeah. But because it's time and energy that was spent that could have been used. And that's just not talking about, the borrowing side of things. That's anything, right? In the business. If you're not paying attention to your marketing tasks or your things, you could be doing things that are giving you no value. Yeah, or you could be half-assing 10 things, do 5 things really good in marketing. you know, instead
It's
of
the same
trying to
as how
do
much
so
you
many
pay
things.
for too. What you said in the presentation, what are you spending your money on? What's your ROI? If there's no ROI, what are you doing? You know, so
So we touched a lot of things because systems are every part of the business, right? Systems are in customer service, systems are in the actual production of the work, systems are in sales, systems are in marketing, systems are in your data collection, systems are in your like post-closing retention, client retention. There's systems in all of that. And I know that can sound very overwhelming because that's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of systems, right? But these things are built over years. And if you don't start now, you're just delaying your empire.
yeah, it took me a while to figure that out. I said, I want all that data because I kept on going from, bank to bank and finally, had a home. But the point is that that data is gone. Imagine all the data you would have had. So you got to start.
Like about 6 years ago, I had like bags of business cards. Like they were not input anywhere really. They were just collected. And I'm like, let me just I threw them out in the garbage.
Way.
I threw them out in the garbage. They were just sitting in a drawer. It was so stupid of me. But just think about that. I think I probably had a couple thousand. I would have had a couple extra thousand professionals to add to my mailing, like my list, my relationships. Who they are, I don't remember. Where I met them, I don't remember. They were all even separated in little baggies, like by event, like because back then I didn't have time to deal with it. I did not have time. You have, and look in the Slack, people are like, I have bags. What are you gonna do first? The first thing you're gonna do is get yourself a good scanner.
They have a scanner,
out there. Yeah. If you are out there in this, listening to this live or later, and you have bags of business cards, the first thing I'm going to tell you to do is buy yourself a good scanner. Scan it all.
What I would do, honest to God, is HubSpot is free. I would download the app, use that scanner, so all the information gets imported into HubSpot.
That's great, but that takes manual labor. What you got to do is scan it all.
Get a VA.
Hire an assistant or a VA to export the data because you ain't got time for that right now. We don't got time for that anymore. Right? No. Like I definitely didn't. I didn't even have the time to think about the importance of those cards before I.
Oh my God, that would take forever.
Okay. So taking them, scanning them, and now I know, but I wish. So
if you know what you know.
If you don't know,
if you
now
don't
you
know. I know.
if you know me, I love to quote Biggie. There's always a good line, in that's relevant to anything. I can't
believe you dumped them, man. I'm shocked.
I dumped the cards. Shame on me. But I was not a business owner really back then, right? So I was just like, I don't know what to do. I'm never going to touch these. What am I going to do with them?
That's the quote. What was the quote? You were I didn't write it down.
I created a job for myself.
Yes.
I didn't create a business.
Yes. Created a job for myself. So that's same with everyone. I think everyone's just going a mile a minute and nobody's really taking the time to slow down, to speed up and just.
But think about this. I'm going to harp on this quote that I just said, and then we'll leave you with that. If you're creating just a job for yourself, it's so much less stress to work for someone else, because when you go home, you might stress about it, but you're not making payroll. You're not doing all that stuff. You're not required, to bring in, like, do all those things. If you want to be a business owner, if you're going to be self-employed, you need to create a business for yourself so that you reap those benefits. Because it's not, if you're just creating a job, you might as well go work for somebody else.
Yeah.
If you're not cut out for it, go work for somebody else.
I mean, right? Look at Bob, who works for me. Yeah, he's got an amazing severance that comes in from a portion of his sale, and he didn't want to become another entrepreneur. He's like, screw that. So he's working with us. So it's the same concept. What do you want to do? Do you want to do 1099 work, subcontracted, entrepreneurship, or you just want to work for someone else? Each their own, man. All right, good show.
Each their own, but keep tweaking, guys. I leave you with that. Keep tweaking. Keep tweaking. Bye, guys. Have an amazing day. Hope you learned something. See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.